Okay, so let's travel back to April 1990 in Kobe, Japan. A spiritual leader gets up in front of 8,000 people and delivers this incredible lecture. He talks about a sickness that's infecting modern society, and he offers a pretty radical cure that starts, of all places, right in the family home. He even gave it a name, a spiritual contagious disease. We're going to break down this really unique vision for the modern world. So, right out of the gate, he starts with this extraordinary claim. Think about that for a second. He's telling this huge crowd that this isn't their first meeting. He's framing this whole event not just as a lecture, but as a kind of reunion of souls that have known each other across lifetimes. He's saying, deep down, your soul already knows what I'm about to say. And you've got to understand the scene here. He doesn't see himself as just a speaker, he sees himself as a shepherd. And this massive audience, they're his flock, people who he believes instinctively recognize his voice and know that this is where they're supposed to be. It creates this immediate, powerful dynamic of guidance and trust. All right, section 1, a shepherd and his flock. So what is the big message from this shepherd to his flock? Well, it all starts with a pretty startling diagnosis. He believes that the absence of faith isn't just a choice, it's a kind of illness. His whole point is, before you can even think about things like love or purpose or real happiness, you have to look inside. It's that simple. He actually tells the audience to open the windows of their hearts and just feel what comes in. The idea is that the truth isn't something you learn, it's something you rediscover inside yourself. Now, this is where he draws a really sharp line in the sand. He basically asks, do you really think something that's just a clump of protein that evolved from an amoeba could be moved to tears by a spiritual truth? For him, the answer is a hard no. Our very essence, he says, isn't material at all, it's spiritual. We're literally children of a divine parent, and our souls are made from that parent's love. Okay, on to section 2, the sickness of modernity. So now that he's established where we come from, our spiritual origins, he lays out his diagnosis for what's going wrong. He sees a dangerous illness attacking the very soul of modern society. And he gives it this really intense name, a spiritual contagious disease. You see, in his view, materialism isn't just a philosophy you can disagree with. No, it's a plague, a sickness of the soul that spreads from one person to another, convincing them that this physical world is all there is. And here are the symptoms he lays out. When people deny their own spiritual nature, he says it's more than just a lifestyle choice. He calls it an act of suicide. The soul is literally turning against itself, denying its own eternal life. He tells his followers, look, don't let the sick people convince you that you're the strange one. Your spiritual health is the true normal. And just to show you how serious he thinks this is, get this. He claims that in his long, long memory, stretching back thousands of years, the only time things were this spiritually decayed was right before the legendary civilization of Atlantis completely collapsed. So we're not just talking about a bad trend here. He sees this as a full-blown civilization-level crisis. Section 3, coffee, tea, and gender. So what's causing this civilization-ending crisis? Well, according to the speaker, it all comes down to a fundamental mistake in how we think. A mistake that he believes is destroying the very foundation of society, the family. And he boils his entire argument down to this one question. He absolutely agrees that all souls are equal in value before God, but he argues the modern world has completely misunderstood what that equality is supposed to look like in practice, especially between men and women. And he doesn't mince words. He points the finger directly at what he calls a mistaken idea of gender equality, which he says was imported from America and Europe. He believes it's a source of this spiritual contagion because it makes men and women compete with each other instead of harmonizing, which disrupts a divine plan. To make this crystal clear, he uses this really memorable analogy. Men, he says, are like coffee. Their essence is all about depth, richness, and taking on responsibility for the family and for society. Women, on the other hand, are like tea. Their essence is in lightness, clarity, and the beautiful fragrance of harmony, which starts in the home. Both are absolutely equal in value, but they have different natures and different purposes. And here's how he puts it in his own words. When you try to mix them up or force one to be like the other, you don't get some superior new drink, you just ruin both. His point is that modern society is basically trying to pour tea into coffee.
And in the process, it's destroying the unique goodness that makes each one special.
Moving on to Section 4, building the family utopia. So if the problem starts at home, guess what? The cure does too. The speaker's solution isn't about politics or protest, it's about something deeply personal. He lays out a really clear 4-step roadmap. First, you have to look inside and figure out who you really are spiritually. Then, you use that knowledge to build harmony at home, with husband and wife embracing those distinct coffee and tea roles. When you do that, your home becomes what he calls a family utopia, a literal base of light. And the final step? These individual lights multiply, and together they heal the whole nation from the inside out. And this is where things get really fascinating, almost mystical. He says that from the spiritual world, a home that is truly filled with faith and harmony literally glows. You can actually see it. So the mission he gives to his followers is simple. Create so many of these glowing homes that they light up the entire country and push back the darkness of materialism.
All right, our final section, Section 5, the power of gentleness. This really gets to the heart of the lecture's title. But here's the twist. This isn't about being weak or passive. For the speaker, real gentleness is the ultimate form of spiritual strength, and it looks a little different for men and women.
For men, he says, gentleness isn't weakness. It has to come from a place of strength. It's the kind of kindness that a truly strong person, someone who is confident in their role as a protector and provider, can afford to show everyone. It's not about being less of a man, it's about strength expressing itself with grace. And for women, gentleness isn't about being meek. It's actually about a kind of courage. It's the unshakable strength to maintain harmony in the family, to support her husband no matter what challenges they face. It's not about being timid. It's about having the fierce courage to be the family's anchor of love and peace. And he gives this really powerful historical example, the great reformer, Martin Luther. Luther faced unbelievable opposition, right? But he said he could handle all of it for one reason. He had a gentle, loving wife and a harmonious home to come back to. The speaker's point is that his wife's work in creating that home was every bit as powerful as Luther's, because it was the source of his world-changing energy. Okay, so let's tie this all together. What are the big takeaways from this 1990 vision? First, there's a spiritual sickness, materialism, that threatens all of us. Second, the cure isn't political. It starts by building a family utopia at home. Third, this requires men and women to embrace their unique but equal roles, responsibility, and harmony. And finally, the highest virtue of all, true gentleness, is really the ultimate expression of spiritual strength and courage. So here we are, decades later, and this message leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. In a world that is always looking for huge, top-down solutions to its problems, what power might we be overlooking in the simple idea that the most profound change actually begins with the harmony we create inside our own four walls?